Tick, 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 presumably by Brushcraft Medic. When I was young, I liked Pokémon, as did most kids back in the day. Despite being fairly young to the series, maybe about 6 or so, I played Pokémon Red and loved it. Unfortunately, as I got into double digits, I went through that horrible phase where I thought everything I loved when I was younger was childish. Of course, this included Pokémon, so I missed out on Pokémon Gold and Silver, Ruby and Sapphire, and even Fire Red and Leaf Green. Though early on in high school I managed to get my hands on Pokémon Diamond, and I loved Pokémon all over again. I didn't like the game itself, although I far from hated it. The whole concept and gameplay of it reminded me of why I loved the series so much in the first place. I went and bought everything I could. I managed to find Fire Red and an Emerald in a local game traders, and I bought Heart Gold when it came out. Hell, despite having the remake, I even went back and played the original Red again. I'm even thinking of buying Yellow as I never got the chance to play that. Because I had both Red and Fire Red, I felt the need to get Gold and Heart Gold, but Gold was hard to find. Whereas in my game traders, who frequently stocked Yellow in the GBA games, they didn't stock anything from 2nd gen. This irked me. So I went online to get a copy. Sure enough, I found one going for, no, not $1, although that would have been nice, 20. It was the cheapest one there, so I bought it. It took about 3 weeks, but it finally arrived. I opened the package up and took the gold-colored game out and placed it in my limited edition Pokémon Game Boy Color. Well, technically it wasn't mine, but my brother and I shared all of our games, as if it's everybody's, and they didn't want it when they moved out, so... The game screen started up like normal, but there was no save before me. I was a little disappointed, as I'd like to have seen how far the previous owner had gotten and what team they had. Nonetheless, I started a new game. I named my character Gold, generic I know, but hey, I'm a girl, I couldn't name him after me. And my rival Silver, of course. The game played perfectly. That is, until I got to Violet City. Nothing was wrong with the city itself, everything was fine, there was no creepy music, and I beat the monks at the Sprout Tower no problem. Nothing was wrong, but there was something wrong with Falkner. Don't get me wrong, his sprite wasn't decaying or anything, he didn't say anything weird before the battle, and none of his Pokémon were harmed either. It was after the battle which was weird. Instead of talking to me, I immediately got the badge. After the badge get music finished, and the Gold got the Zypher badge text box disappeared, he simply said, "Ellipsis." I pressed A and he went on. Tick, tick, tick. I then got the TM and was able to leave. That was it. I tried talking to him again, but he just says the same thing. I talked to his one trainer in the gym to see if he was still saying the same thing. Surprisingly, he had something different from when I last spoke to him. He is waiting. Who is waiting? And for what? It's a bit creepy, but I save and continued with the game. After that, I'm a little surprised to see that the game hasn't changed at all. It all plays out the way it was meant to. Maybe that was a glitch? I almost forgot about it until I came up to the next gym leader, Bugsy. The same thing happened. He said what he was meant to before the battle, but after, the badge was immediately gotten, and all he said was, ellipsis, tick, tick, tick. And then the TM was obtained, and like Falkner, he'd say the same thing if I tried to talk to him again. I made sure to talk to the trainers after I beat them before I took on Bugsy, and they said nothing out of the ordinary. However, after Bugsy was beaten, one of them said the same thing Falkner's trainer said. He is waiting. I assumed the other would say the same thing, but I was wrong. The other simply said, hurry. As I progressed through the game, I built my team. It consisted of Typhlosion, Umbreon, Dragonair, Sudowoodo, and Togetic. I don't like to nickname my Pokémon, I feel they don't need one, but they were still my pals. I found that the storyline itself was fine. Not even Silver had said anything out of his usual dicky character, but all the gym leaders had said the same thing when they were beaten. And depending on how many trainers in the gym there were, I'd get new phrases. When I had beaten Claire, I had gotten these phrases. He is waiting, hurry, the badges must be obtained, he must be battled, the ticking must stop. By this point I assumed the game was a hack and may not have even been finished, if there was nothing wrong with it outside of the gym leaders. I fly to Newbark Town and go on my way to defeat the Elite Four. They all said the same thing when beaten. Ellipsis, tick, tick, tick. And of course, they all still said it if you tried to talk to them again. It was getting annoying. But Lance was last, and I thought that finally this ticking would stop. His team goes down fairly easily thanks to both Sudowoodo and Dragonair. After his defeat, I was greeted with an ellipsis. Oh great, I thought, as I pressed stay. But he said, "Don't keep him waiting." All of a sudden, the screen goes black. Then the credits rolled. Just like that. No congratulations on beating the Elite Four, no Hall of Fame, just straight to the credits. The game restarted like normal, and I'm back in Gold's room. The game is normal once again, and I'm now able to go into Kanto. This was the part I was most excited about when playing Heart Gold, and thus I was just as excited when playing it through on Gold. I started off with Janine, who is the lowest level out of all the Kanto gym leaders. She goes down easily. Unsurprisingly, her text appears and all it says is ellipsis. I click A, and she says something slightly different than all the others. Don't keep him waiting. Tick, tick, tick. The trainers don't say the same thing either. In fact, all they say is just ellipsis now. I continued on beating gym leader after gym leader, and they all said the same thing. By this point, I had 13 badges. I just needed to wake up Snorlax and get to the other side of Kanto. I caught Snorlax and headed through the Diglett's cave. Before I beat Brock, though, I went to Mount Moon to beat Silver for the last time. The battle was mine, of course, and Silver still can't believe he lost. But he says something slightly different than what he was meant to. I lost again. Gold, you should be careful. There's something not right. And then he leaves, and he seems to run slightly faster than he did all the other times when I beat him. But I put it past me and continued on to beat Brock. Of course, he says the same thing as all the other Kanto gym leaders say when they're beaten. The same with Blaine. I now had 15 badges. All that was left was Blue. I actually called him Green, but because the game called him Blue, I will too here. The battle was close, but in the end I win. Again, the badge get music plays automatically in the text box with Gold got the Earth badge popped up. But instead of the ellipsis, I was greeted with Gold's name. Gold. Blue says, "Stay away from Mount Silver. Don't listen to everyone else. Stay away from it." Everyone else? As in those who said he is waiting? And then it clicked. Mount Silver. Red. Red was waiting. But why did I need to stay away from him? I nervously clicked A to make Blue continue. For the sake of me and you, the ticking needs to continue. I don't know why, but that one sentence freaked the shit out of me. But I continue nonetheless, going to Oaks and getting permission to go to Mount Silver. Blue's words still went around in my head, but I was too curious not to go. And this was Red, right? You had to beat him in order to really complete the game. So in I went. I explored everywhere, grabbing all the items and looking everywhere. Finally, I found him. Red. He was looking the other way, of course, and I readied my Pokémon for battle and saved. Then I went up to him. I was met with his usual silence before the battle ensued. Pokémon Trainer Red would like to battle. It was just as epic as it was in Heart Gold. I hardly cared that his Pikachu completely owned my team. But for some reason, I didn't white out. The screen cut back to the overworld, and for the first time I heard, well, Red speak. Ellipsis, tick, tick, tick. Then the screen turned white, and the text box read, Gold whited out. For some reason, I found the ticking much creepier when Red does it. I then spent hours upon hours level grinding so I could beat the legendary trainer. I managed to get them all up to level 70, which I thought would do. After all, if my team in Heart Gold could beat his level 88 Pikachu and a team of 68, then my team in Gold can beat his level 82 Pikachu with a team of 70. Armed with stronger Pokemon and a bunch of revives, hyper potions, and full restores, I was ready for him. I talk to him again, and again he says nothing. The battle starts, and again goes out with Pikachu. Sudowoodo goes out first, and I get it to use Earthquake. Red's Pikachu obviously goes first, and it uses Iron Tail. Luckily, though, it misses. Earthquake manages to take it down in one. Red then sends out Blastoise, and I don't have any type advantage for it, so I counter with Dragonite using Outrage to take it down. I do, but Blastoise has also done a far damage on Dragonite, and her health has gone down in the red zone. Venusaur's up next, and I switched out for Togetic. It's fast and hits first with flying moves, landing super effective hits. However, they didn't do a fat lot despite being super effective, and Venusaur unfortunately takes down Togetic. I didn't want to use Typhlosion just yet, as he is my highest level Pokémon, but I have no choice. One eruption and Venusaur falls. Snorlax comes out next. Another eruption and it takes a bit more than half. One more and Snorlax falls. Next is Espeon and Umbreon is sent out to take it on. Despite going out first, most of Espeon's attacks are psychic and thus do nothing. A few feint attacks and Espeon feints as well. Charizard is last and I leave Umbreon out. I use my turn to heal Dragonite fully before Umbreon is taken down in one hit by Charizard's Flamethrower. Dragonite then comes out and 2 surfs later, Red's Charizard falls. I yell triumphantly. I always felt so proud after defeating Red. It cuts back to the overworld, and as usual, Red has his text box full of ellipses. I pressed A, but instead of it fading to black and him disappearing, the text continues. Ellipsis, ellipsis, boom. I felt a jolt of electricity and automatically dropped my Game Boy. After a couple of seconds to recover from surprise, I look at it and see that it's switched off. I turn it back on, but it tells me that the save file has been corrupted. I try a new game, but it tells me the same thing. Then I realize, after Red, there is nothing. Once you beat him, there's nothing left to do. The ticking was leading up to that. As long as Red was undefeated, everyone could continue existing. But I beat him, so he destroyed their world. Gold's world. Blue's world. Everyone's world. He destroyed it. He was waiting to. I should have listened to Blue, because now all I can hear is ticking, and I own a digital clock. For the sake of you and me, the ticking needs to continue. That was Tick, Tick, Tick. Final thoughts? Almost completely pretentious filler. This story almost instantly pissed me off. I've said it before and I'll say it again, don't make fun of creepypasta cliches in your creepypasta. Even if the story making fun of them doesn't do cliches of its own, and it does by the way, as the moment after the author writes that Falconer says nothing weird before the battle, he then says things weird after the battle, that's just as cliche, it detracts from the story and it's nothing but harmful. Not only is it pretentious to do it within the story, but it gives the impression that, within the story itself, other creepypasta are fake, but this one is real. That makes it even more unbelievable. You don't see vampire novels with lines like, "No, he didn't turn into a werewolf. That would just be stupid." Never do this. The syntax is all over the place in this story. The story is a retelling of events as told by the player of the game, yet sometimes it's worded as if it's a passive event that's currently happening. This is a massive issue, as this is something that you'd fail a grade 8 English test for. If you're at least 14 years old and English is your first language, you should know better than to write like this. The ending was insanely bad. Just the video game affecting real life by shocking him and turning off the game, and some stupid sentences trying to act like the story was way more deep than it actually was. My final huge issue, and the first one I actually brought up, almost the entire story is filler. This was 7 screenshots long, and it could have been 2. The vast majority of this story is just saying the same thing over and over. He goes into a gym, beats the leader says the thing, the trainers say the thing, and then he says where the path to the next gym is. There is almost no progression through any of that part, it's just shameless filler. That's it for this creepypasta and the 5th day of the second 7 days of creepypasta special. Tomorrow I'll be tackling another highly requested story with Chikorita's Oil. If you want to write your own story, help peer edit a story, or even just read the stories early, check out the description where you'll find a link to the creepypasta section of my forum. You'll also find a link to the playlist of every creepypasta reading I've done. Also in the description, there will be a link to the Walkthrough Corner, a collaborative video game channel that I do a Let's Play of Fallout New Vegas on weekly. When it's not pissing me off, that is. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, sweet dreams.